In the homework task for lesson 1 in data security level 6, I gave you a thesaurus where you had numerous threats. What you had to do was pick 5 of those potential threats and then find out something interesting and write about them. And we were looking for things such as definition, how it works, defensive measures, and examples of them in use. And there's a variety of ways that you could answer this, but research was the key. So when we were looking at the document called Threatosaurus, I picked out a few examples just to show you the kind of detail that students went into. So this is Stephen's, or one of Stephen's pieces of research. So he went for hoax, and a hoax is where there's a threat or an email that comes through that warns the user of some sort of non-existent computer threat. Okay, so it's also it's a bit like a chain email, so it keeps on asking the users to forward it. Sometimes it just pops up as a kind of warning, and there was a kind of spate of these maybe 4 or 5 years ago where there were adverts embedded on web pages, and the idea is to scare innocent people to make them think that they will be helping either their family and friends by warning them about this or something like that. Now, you can defend yourself against hoax attacks by staying up to date with all the current online scams. So that's just a bit of research on your behalf, but also staying up to date with the current events going on around the world, so you're aware if there's any sort of large-scale hoaxes going on. Usually these kind of hoax threats can suggest that you've won a prize. And so avoiding clicking on things that say you've won a prize, unless you've really entered that competition, of course. Now, I'm talking about hoax sort of adverts being around sort of 4 or 5 years ago, but actually there was a lot of hoax attacks used during COVID as well, and they would spread that kind of misinformation as far as possible. So well done, Stephen. Apart from this and your other research was excellent work. Now, Simon, I went for, so a lot of these answers overlapped, so some people researched the same topics, but Simon went for drive-by download as one of the threats, and this is usually something that happens without the user knowing anything about it at all. So, for example, if you went to an infected website, the malware is just automatically downloaded when you go to a certain page on that site, sometimes just the home pages, and it exploits the vulnerabilities in a browser in order to infect their computer. Now, once you visit an infected site, the attackers or the hacker can attack the user without tricking them into trusting the website. To make sure that you have adequate protection against this type of threat, you should always use an up-to-date browser, and you should try and ensure that you've got good endpoint security software which has web security filtering. H9E went for botnets as a type of threat. So these are a sort of collection of infected computers that are controlled remotely by a program or directly by a hacker. So once the computers are individually affected by a sort of a virus or a program, that computer's known as a zombie. So it just kind of sits and is just waiting to be controlled by the hacker in the future. Okay. Now, the person who has attacked your computer and turned it into a zombie isn't necessarily the hacker that's going to launch an attack through a collection of computers that have been turned into zombies. They can then sell on your computer and others so that an organization can orchestrate an attack. Okay. To get around this, just keeping your antivirus software up to date, so McAfee or Norton, AVG, Avast, those kind of things. Okay, but antivirus software that has some network monitoring installed on it as well to make sure that your computer is not sending lots of dodgy packets out into the rest of the internet. Now, rootkit is really exciting. So if you've ever jailbroken your iPhone, for example, you've rooted your iPhone, and a rootkit in malware is got the same kind of idea. It's basically trying to give you access to the root of a device. Okay, so that's the kind of like main directory of a device. Once you've got root access, you're able to change the operating system and access other hardware and software that's on your system. Okay, rootkits, as Luke says here, it allows you to initiate commands on your computer. So anything with an operating system can be a potential target. And that could also be Internet of Things devices or smart devices, such as your Alexas, but also just your smart fridge or your smart kettle or your smart microwave. As well as giving hackers direct access to the device, rootkits can also have keyloggers in them, which just basically scan for your sort of confidential information and passwords, and then just automatically sends that back to the cyber criminals involved. To get rid of these, you've got to use some endpoint security packages. Anti-malware software such as Malwarebytes might be able to pick up some of these as well, but you just have to routinely scan for these kind of threats. Really good example, which is just behind my head, so I'll move it out of the way slightly, is Stuxnet, which is a worm which was sort of developed in the late 2000s, early 2010, and Stuxnet basically was a virus that sort of went through the majority of the internet and was looking for a specific type of computer in a specific location. And in this case, it was looking for nuclear reactors in Iran. So, Luke, that was excellent research. Well done. Miklaj researched cookies. Now, you might be aware of cookies because cookies are files that are placed on your computer when you visit a website. And these websites could be, brands or companies like Amazon and eBay and things like that. And they just remember little bits of details about you, like what you typed in as your username, what you clicked on, what you searched for, and things like that. And cookies are really handy to have access to for these companies because then they can try and target ads to you in the future. There are threats because you can actually access cookies maliciously to extract this information. And while most of it would just be our search history or our shopping habits, you might sometimes have cookies which record things like usernames, not passwords, but usernames, and maybe sort of session identifiers, which might be useful in some websites where you don't need quite as much authentication. Good work, Miklaj. I would love to see an example of a use of, or a malicious use of cookies in there, but apart from that, it was absolutely perfect. So folks, hopefully you understand what was expected in the homework task. Now we've gone over 5 examples, and in those 5 we managed to complete the homework activity. Remember and upload it to your journal. I am checking the journal and I'll get in touch with you if you're not completing the homework task, and making sure that you do that work so that you're at the same point as everyone else. Thanks for your time.